Hello, 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 beautiful people. It is so great to be back with you. I bumped my computer when I was getting started, messed up my whole camera setup situation. That's just me telling y'all the truth. So, welcome back for those who have been with us for a while, and welcome if this is your first time being here. I'm Leah Murphy. I'm the CEO of Career Gems for the Journey, where we help talented professionals build thriving careers. And I am excited to be back with you at our regular time, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Tuesday. So you can always find us here. I'd love for anyone who is with me live to just drop your city in the chat. I'm getting better at being able to actually read the comments as they come through. So drop your city in the chat so that I can shout you out. I love to know who's here with me live, who's right with the energy and kind of able to mirror that back to me. But I also love those who are watching us on the replay. I love that for you. I love it for me also. It looks like the replay continues to grow. So I'm really excited that folks have access to this recording and all the previous recordings when we are streaming directly to LinkedIn Live as well as YouTube. So excited for that. And as you guys still see, our very, very, very much anticipated anthology, my much anticipated anthology, Triumph in the Trenches, Navigating Success for Black Professionals, is still here on the screen. You can still get your pre-order copy today. You should grab your copy today. You can use the QR code to do it, or you can head over to gemsforthejourney.org. The QR code is for anybody who is with us live or watching this on a replay. But if you're listening and you're in podcast mode, you can definitely go to the website at gemsforthejourney.org and grab your copy. Take full advantage of that. I mentioned on the last time that we were live because I really wanted folks to understand all of the perks that come along with buying your copy of this book. You get a free 30-minute coaching session directly with me. Like, that is it almost makes me a little bit like fluttery. Like I lose the word sometimes because I love to be able to work directly with people who are looking to build a thriving career. And I find a lot of people are on LinkedIn interested, looking for information, grabbing facts from a number of different locations. And I want to be able to be a resource to as many people as possible. But, I'm only one person. And because I'm only one person, that's why I do the lives. That's why we have the Career Gems for the Journey podcast, because there's so many people out there that are looking for great career advice and really thoughtful strategies to be able to grow their career. But I'm seeing a lot of misinformation also out there. So I am really grateful that I have the opportunity to partner specifically with those for 30 minutes who grab a copy of the book. It's just $29. The value for what you're getting experientially is literally top tier. In addition to that, I will sign a copy of your book and it will be shipped to you directly at no additional cost. So $29 and it's free shipping. And then you get that one-on-one coaching session. So really want as many people as possible to take advantage of that. And you can go and do that right now. Either use the QR code for those who are with us live, or you can head over to the website to do that. I mentioned earlier some misinformation. And the reason why I wanted to share that is because I had a great conversation with another coach that I respect. And as she and I were talking, actually, Hamaria Crockett, she and I were talking, we're co-anthologists in the Triumph of the Trenches anthology. And we actually had crossed paths before professionally years earlier. And she was just explaining that there is so much misinformation in the career coaching and professional development space that she could spend every day possible on countering misinformation that people are putting out there. Volumes of just bad advice. And I was telling her, I never even thought about it that way, but she's absolutely right. People who are just not grounded in data or facts or don't have the experience to be able to advise somebody else on making career choices are giving out bad information. The internet is a gift as well as a dumpster fire. So you can get both, right? You can get both on any day and multiple, and you can get both in any minute. So when she said that, it just made me laugh because, she's absolutely right. There are people who are creating great content and it's entertaining and it might be funny or it might be catchy or it might be, interesting eye candy. But when it really comes to putting together strategies and thoughtful approaches for how to navigate your career, there are some people who are out there that are really doing the work that I have a lot of respect for. And there's some people that are not. So when she shared that, I was like, man, you're absolutely right. And I want to make sure that I continue to be a great resource for my clients that are already working with me, and also anybody who comes into the Career Gems for the Journey fold into the family and community that we're creating. And not like that work family, like, people who will fire you, but tell you that you're family, not that style. The style of community and foundation where you feel like you're well received. You feel like people are celebrating you and not just tolerating you. That's the kind of community that we're creating here at Career Gems for the Journey. So would love to have you be a part of it. And by purchasing the book, you can start to be a member of that community if you're not already. So lots of you are already a member of the community, and I love that. And you're already getting our newsletter, because the newsletter continues to drop and people continue to give great feedback on that. So excited for you all to take advantage of all the things that are available in the resources that we're providing. So today, I want to make sure that we start our new series. And as we talk about Triumph in the Trenches, I'm pulling some excerpts, some highlights directly from the book, but also tying it directly to what's happening in the world today, what's happening in the job market, what's happening with inflation and how people are feeling. I got lots and lots of people who are communicating different experiences that they're having in organizations that they currently work for or in their previous organizations. And that's the thing about doing this work, is the more I share, the more I give away, the more people then come to me to say, here's my experience, and I want to make sure that I get advice on my experience, or I get your coaching on my experience, but also just people wanting to share. Because there's lots of folks who are having lived experiences, but we're not connected in any way, or we'll be in an organization and we'll have something happen to us, or we'll see something happen, and we always, can benefit from just a checkpoint, a calibration. Am I tripping? Right? And as many times as I can remember being in a meeting and hearing something said and wanting to catch the eyes of somebody else that I trusted and give them the like, am I tripping? Like, did you hear what I hear? And we do a lot of that here at Career Gems for the Journey. So excited to continue to be the litmus test, right? To be your sense check. Are you tripping when you're having your response to whatever's happening in the workplace, good or not good? So I am going to get back to my commitment that I made late last year of keeping these LinkedIn lives and streaming directly live to YouTube, keeping them brief. We want to get them to be under 20 minutes so that they feel very digestible and you can go and apply the information as quickly as possible. So I love having you here, but I want to make sure that I get to the meat of the discussion as quickly as I can, as quickly as feels like it makes sense for the topic that we're talking about, so that you can go and get into action and use the information. So I wanted to start this series focusing on upskilling. And upskilling is getting, it's kind of a buzzword, right? It's getting a lot of industry recognition. And upskilling is really, I'm hearing it more in reaction to some other things that are happening related to artificial intelligence and all of the momentum that shift in our mode of communication is having. So what I want to do is first just kind of turn down the temperature a little bit. I'm hearing a lot of people who are feeling very triggered in some ways by, how do we make sure that I am not feeling overwhelmed by AI and the perception of AI and what's happening and how it's going to impact jobs. I have a few things to tell you. First, AI is 100% going to impact every industry. I don't think that's a surprise. No matter what industry you work in, AI will have some impact. But rather than, as humans, focusing on, man, I'm completely underwater, I don't know anything about AI, or I'm not a computer programmer, I'm not a coder, what do I need to do? I'm going to tell you. So stick with me. I want to first start with this reality check, because I think we all need it. I get to have partnerships and relationship with larger organizations and individuals, and I'm hearing very, very poignant, important facts that are coming out of these organizations, but also people are having real lived experience, and I get to put the two together and then bring them to you. So I want to just debunk a myth for a moment. AI is its own new data processing tool that has all kinds of potential for the future. But the job market was already under duress. And I want to make sure that folks understand it was a myth always if you believed you had job security. It was always a myth if you believe you had job security. In in the 2000s and beyond, when corporations began to really focus on Wall Street quarter to quarter earnings, and it didn't begin in the 2000s, but a lot of the folks who are a part of the community here that come and listen and pay attention to the lives and um, do the replay started working sometime in the late 90s or maybe early 2000s, or maybe some folks are just coming into the workforce now. So what I can say for sure is over the course of the last 30 years, if we think about the 1990s and that window of time, companies have been making a very intentional pivot towards focusing on shareholder value, right? So what shareholder value means is the people who own stocks or shares in the company, they want to make sure that they're making those people money. So when you're making those people money, that means there's all kinds of benefits to the senior leadership and the folks who lead the organization, lead the company. I talked about this in the previous live, so I'm not going to get into too much detail as far as shareholders. You should go and watch previous lives because we went deep into it. But in order for companies to create shareholder value, they have to focus on making sure their costs look a certain way, that their share price looks a certain way and performs a certain way on a quarter to quarter basis. So we've talked about earnings calls, we talked about 10K statements, and this may feel like, what are you talking about, Leah? Bring it all together. Here we go. I'm going to bring it all together. Job security has always been a myth. Our generations, baby boomers and the silent generations before them, had a different perception and quality of life. And some of them had job security where they could take a job, and they gave us the advice, stay in the job for 30 years, retire, carry on with your life, right? The job will provide for you. You'll not have to worry about your financial health and well-being because the company is going to ultimately provide for you and you'll carry that into whatever life you choose. I want to just share a quick stat with you because this has been coming up a lot for me, especially with my clients. And the stat is 70% of people have been laid off or experienced underemployment at some point during their career. So my organization did a study, gathered a lot of data to get a better understanding of what's happening in current job markets. And we did this work in 2021, actually. So if 70% of people have been laid off or experienced underemployment, that combination has happened at some point in their career. And I want to just talk a little bit about what underemployment looks like. Underemployment looks like you are in a role that is lower than your experience or your competencies. Underemployment can also look like you have taken a pay cut significantly in order to keep a job because there are financial pressures in the organization. Underemployment can also look like you doing work that is maybe in a gig economy while you've been laid off, or while there's some kind of separation for you in the professional arena. Underemployment can also look like you considering roles that are no longer really relevant in the skill set that you have from a market standpoint. So you now have made a pivot. And during that time of pivot, you had to take a step back professionally. And all of these things happen in a career. So I want to first, always lead with debunking the myth. Job security is a myth. And also, there are lots of pivots and peaks and valleys that happen in a career. Careers are not straight lines. They're not linear. They're not going to always go the way that we perceive they may have gone in previous generations because of corporations, publicly traded and private corporations, making decisions based on a whole different set of priorities that don't necessarily align to quality of life for employees. So publicly traded companies, we've talked about share price, and then we've talked about private companies and their incentive, what they're being motivated by. So if we have this stat and you walk into a room and 7 out of the 10 people in the room have either been laid off at some point in their career or experienced underemployment, I want to remind you all that if it is happening to you right now, You are not necessarily the problem. A lot of folks get laid off or experience some form of underemployment and start to ruminate and start to feel like, will I ever be able to get another opportunity? What's wrong with me? What happened? It's great to do a self-evaluation to see what you want to do and how you want to change post layoff, but it does not mean that it was a you problem. Companies are cutting out whole departments. Companies are making shifts in complete priorities. Companies are laying people off to then go buy back their own shares, to go buy back their own stocks. So it's not necessarily a you problem. But when I talked about AI earlier and I talked about the impact that it can have, I want to make sure that I give you guys some things to take away. If you're not going to go out and learn AI in all of the development that's happening, if you're not going to go work for one of those organizations, one of those tech companies that is starting to develop AI, you still have some things that you can do in order to upskill. So upskilling really looks like you getting a development and new skills that are going to be valuable to the organization that you're with now, or valuable to another organization that you can partner with in the future. And one way that I find, I'm going to go into about 3 ways of upskilling. One this week, I'm going to do one every week, every time that we're together live. And the first one that I want to make sure that I share is you can upskill by getting a better profit and loss, P&L understanding. So in the last series, we talked about pause the work and go make yourself some work friends. Pause the work, bring your head up, go make yourself some friends. This is really, now we're going to get into the detail of what those friends can help you do in your career, because we're not meant to navigate these corporate environments and these big structures alone. Not corporations, not nonprofits, not academia, not private sector / federal, all of that. We're meant to do this as a collaborative. And the sooner you can have other relationships that you can lean on, professional relationships, the better you will be. So when I talk about upskilling to get a better P&L experience or better P&L understanding, there are lots of people who work in organizations today and they don't understand how your business makes money. So if you don't understand how your business makes money, it's very difficult for you to understand where you sit in the organization and why you're valuable to the organization. So if you understand how your business makes money, you can use the P&L experience, your profit and loss statement that the company produces, to get a better understanding of how they are making money and where the money is coming from and what money is going out. So the better you can get at understanding profit and loss, that's where the critical business decisions are really getting made. How do we add to the bottom line? How do we add to the top line? Get a good understanding of profit and loss. If you can do that, you can then take it a click deeper and say, where do I sit in the organization and how do I impact the profit and loss of the company? And the way that you can get that language is to actually spend some time with your friends in finance. Spend some time potentially with your friends in accounting. If you get a better understanding of how the company is making money, where the money is coming from, then you can track it back specifically to the work that you do. Now you're thinking broadly, and it allows you to then say, am I in a position to add more value to the organization that makes me a more valuable asset? Or am I in a position to make sure that I have a better understanding so that when I need to transition out of the organization for reasons of my own choosing, that I am clear on how I can bring value to the organization and I can negotiate based on that. Because job security is a myth, we always have to be preparing ourselves to pivot from the organization that we're in, to sustain where we are and add more value, or to figure out what's next for us. So if you go into looking for a job or looking to grow your career, knowing that the security of one organization forever and ever is a myth, then you're constantly upskilling and adding value for your own security, right? You provide the security for yourself by being an asset and then looking for opportunities where your value is going to be acknowledged and going to be appropriately compensated. So the better off we can each be, through navigating and upskilling is something that I feel like we're not really talking about. And we would all be better off professionally if we had a better understanding of profit and loss. And if we get a good understanding of profit and loss, then you can decide, am I in an advantage position in this situation or am I in a disadvantaged position? And I'll give you a great example and I'll leave with this. So as we think about where we sit in organizations, there's lots of parts of the organization that generate dollars for the business. So normally the place that generates dollars for the business is an example of that is sales. So sales generates money for the business. Sales goes out, they sell things, the company makes money as a result. So if you understand that that is a profit center for the company, then you decide, do I want to participate in a profit center in the organization? The other example that I want to share is if you work in a part of the organization that is not a profit center, then that could look like maybe you work in HR or maybe you work in some other area of administration. Those are not profit generating sectors of the organization. So they can be overhead. If you think about the parts of the organization that are often trimmed or adjusted or skimmed down or shrunken, those are non-profit generating parts of the organization. And when you think about making the choice for making a lateral move or taking a cross-functional role or doing an assignment in another part of the organization, make those choices based on whether or not, A, you're going to get value from that experience and how are you going to upskill from going there? And then B, what is their value to the organization, not just based on your own interests? Because understanding how they bring value to the organization then allows you to understand how that's going to impact your career positively as the company thinks about making choices that's going to benefit their bottom line. The fact is, job security is a myth. We're all doing the work actively to create value and to partner with organizations that create mutually beneficial relationships. You guys hear me talk about this a lot. If you can be in a mutually beneficial relationship with an organization because you add value and they are willing to compensate you for the value and give you opportunities to grow, it's a win. But if you don't understand where you can add value and how your skill set specifically translates into a profit generation for the company, then it's going to be very difficult for you to continue to compete not having that valuable information. So here's your homework. We talked about this when we talked about the investor relations friends that we wanted to meet on the Pause the Work. That was our previous series. I really want you guys to go and listen to it. When you then make your friends and you're trying to figure out, how do I leverage these relationships? What can these relationships add to me professionally? Getting a good understanding of profit and loss from the folks that you're now partnered with and connected to will definitely help you assess the situation that you're in and the situation you want to create for yourself going forward. And every organization has profit and loss. Every single one. It doesn't matter where you work or what you do. There's always a cost center. There's always money in. There's always money flowing out. I want each of us to be able to better understand how our organization or the organization that we are working for is navigating their profits and loss. It is a really strong indication of the health of the company. And I want you to take advantage and get access to it in the organization that you work for right now. Even if it's a profit and loss specifically focused on your cost center, the function or department you work in. Oftentimes, the area where P&Ls will be shown, right? If you're looking for a hack, if you're thinking about quarterly earnings statements is one. Also, a lot of companies do town halls, kind of state of the union type addresses, state of the business. That's oftentimes where they will refer to the profit and loss. And oftentimes a CFO or someone in the finance organization will step you through how the company performed in that quarter or maybe in that half of the year. So take advantage the next time you're there, pay attention to what's happening on the P&L and make a mental note or even take a screenshot of it to make sure that you get a better understanding and you can ask some really good questions of folks who are in finance. And that might be a mentor, a sponsor, a relationship, or it's just one of the work friends that we talked about building in the previous series. the next time we get together, we're going to talk about, are you sitting in a profit center or are you sitting in a loss center? So if you are sitting in a profit center, there's certain things that I want to encourage you to do. If you're sitting in a loss center, that often means that you may be overhead to the organization, and there's certain things I want you to do as a result. But first, you have to understand where the P&L is, what it looks like, why is it a priority for you to get a better understanding. Then you do some better assessment of your own position in the organization. Are you in a profit generating center or are you in an overhead center? And there's some details in between. So I want to make sure that as we think about upskilling and you think about making yourself a more palatable, more valuable asset to the organization, it doesn't only have to happen by bringing on new concepts and technology. It can also happen for you as you get a better understanding of how businesses run and how businesses make decisions, because we want you to upskill so that you can build a thriving career, so you can make your journey work for you. The company's already going to make their journey work for them. Their plan is already set. Their strategy is focused on adding value to shareholders. Your strategy is on building a thriving career for you and creating some kind of security for yourself. And upskilling is the way to do it. So I tried to keep it down. I got it down to 26 minutes. I want to make sure that you guys come back and join me next Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will be right here and we'll be going specifically in those cost centers. And are you generating profit for the company or are you an overhead expense for the organization? Because I want us to start speaking the language that companies are using to make these kind of decisions, and also being able to decode some of these company communications that we're reading. So it's been great being with you all. I appreciate you for taking the ride with me. Make your journey work for you. And I will see you next Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And every Tuesday after that. It's been a great ride. Take care.